Hey there, everyone. Anthony Taylor, I'm managing partner at SME Strategy. Thanks for those of you that are joining us for our second section today. Just before this, we talked about stakeholder engagement, both on its own as an input to your strategic plan. So if you enjoyed that, or if you want to see that video, there is a replay available. This video, in this overview, we're going to be talking about our strategic alignment program. It's our core program that we deliver. We've been delivering to hundreds of organizations across Canada, US, and around the world to help teams get aligned, clear vision of where they want to go and what they need to do to get there. So in this overview, I'm going to go through the 5 different steps that we go through, whether that's in person or online. The format is always the same, and how you can use it to be able to get your team on the same page, bought in, and clear about where you want to go. If you're interested in having a one-on-one overview of this, please feel free to fill out a contact form below. So if you see in the offer, there's going to be a little bloop that comes up that's red, and Jason will also put a link in the chat. If you have any questions about how to do this, please let us know. We even have a course on this to help teams figure out how to work through this. But the ideal is that, we work with you to do it yourself. The number one reason we get to work with teams is because as a CEO or senior manager, you can't participate and facilitate at the same time. That's really the main reason why people hire us. Of course, we have a great process and we've been doing this hundreds of times. So we bring a lot of expertise and we have a proven experience. Plus, we have a lot of different problem solving experience for this. But one of the main benefits is you're going to get it done right the first time. You're going to get the right questions asked. You're going to get the right questions answered. And you're going to follow a process so it's well structured in a finite amount of time. So pre-COVID, even post-COVID, we would do this over 2 days typically for most organizations. I'd say if you're between 50 to 200 employees, you can get this done in about 2 days. If you've got a board, or if you need to do some deeper action planning, or if you've got more complicated business, you may want to do it in 3 days or more. But what we've been doing for most of the organizations that we work with, SMEs, is doing it 2 days in person or over 5 3-hour sessions. If you're looking at doing this online, I do not recommend more than 3 hours on a Zoom call. We do it at 3 hours. It's sort of the best amount of time where people have high attention, high energy, high focus, without losing distraction. Pros and cons of doing a strategy session online versus in person. So in person, you get that one-on-one sort of personal interaction. You have a lot of fun. It's 2 days. You get it done over a finite amount of time. And it's engaging and fun, and people like that in-person thing. The benefits of doing it online, it's less expensive because you don't have to pay for travel, hotel, accommodation. You don't have those side conversations, so it's actually more focused. There's a greater equity of voice because everybody has the same kind of size Zoom square. It's easier to manage, believe it or not. If you've done an in-person strategy session at the end of 1 day or the end of 2 days, you're mentally toast. Plus, being able to make time 2 full days, you're catching up on emails for 2 more days after that. One of the things that we discovered through COVID, it was new for us, is being able to do it online, really help people do it in bite-sized pieces. 3 hours, there was homework, and then you came back 3 hours after that. So it really supported the longer-term initiatives of strategic thinking, of being able to incorporate strategy ongoingly. So not just a 2-day bang and then it fizzles out, but really ongoing, having strategic conversations week in and week out. In our next workshop in about 20 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about our implementation programs, how we support people through that. But for now, I just want to walk you through our 5-step process that you can use. We try to keep it easy, so distinct from some other strategic planning frameworks. We just try to keep it really simple and easy to understand. So throughout the strategic planning process, we fundamentally ask 5 questions. Okay, it's more than that, but we ask 5 questions. Where are we now? And we do our celebrate our successes, our SWOT, our pestle analysis. Where are we going? What does success look like for us? If we're 100% successful, how will we know? Which includes our vision and mission. And that's session 2. what is going to get in our way, including values and behaviors, as well as risks and roadblocks. So I know not a lot of people, from what I've heard, do a risk analysis as part of their strategic planning process, but it helps you prioritize risks. It helps you understand what's a nice to have and what's a must have. And it helps you build your implementation plan based on needs and not wants. We've done tons of sessions, and I'd say tons, like at least a dozen, where people have walked into the room with their set of priorities and they walked out of the room with a whole different one because of that risk assessment exercise. Step 3, what do we need to do? So setting 3 strategic priority areas by able to focus on a couple things, doing them really well and focusing your organization on them, and then breaking that down into goals and action items. And then 5 is, what do we need to do to implement the plan? So that's cascading action items. That's talking about communication plan. How are we going to roll the plan out to our organization, as well as talking about the capacities needed to move it forward. So I want to touch on each one of these individually. If you have any questions about them, please put them in the chat, whether that's on YouTube or in the webinar. Where do I want to start here? So why do a strategic planning session in the first place? It's the most important opportunity to get your team aligned and out of what we call the multiple destination trap. So I'm going to see if I have a slide for that right here. Multiple destination trap is the biggest problem that we see with organizations. It's as a CEO or as a board or as a leadership team, if you aren't all moving towards the same direction, you're moving towards different directions. Now that seems obvious and stupid, but at the same time, it's what most organizations are dealing with. Your version of success is different than this person's version of success is different than this person's version of success. And you're all prioritized or focused on different things. Now, why is that a problem? Is because it spreads your resources. It creates doubt and uncertainty. It creates frustration, and it causes confusion. And so most organizations are operating in this multiple destination trap. And then as a leader, it means that you can't be effective in your strategy because everybody is doing their own thing. So the first step is getting alignment towards where you want to go. Make sure everybody is aligned on these things: your vision, your mission, your strategic priorities, your goals, and your tactics, going from 30,000 feet to on the ground execution, and then back up. Once you're aligned with the vision, then you can start moving forward towards accomplishing your plan. But if everybody's working on different things, everybody's going to have a different understanding of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And it's just a big pain. Another thing to think about is if you're not moving in the same direction, you're moving in different directions. And ask yourself, will you be able to accomplish your version of success if everybody has a different version of success? So going back to our agenda, if this was done in person over 2 days, by the way, our flat fee for this is $12,500 USD. We are in Canada, but we operate globally. So it's different price if you're in person, but we can talk about in-person options if you're interested. But on the online way to do it and the online offering, walking through each of these and at every step getting alignment. So why is it important to have alignment around your SWOT and your PESTLE? And many of you might not know what a PESTLE analysis is, but if everybody has a different understanding of where we're starting, then how will you be able to get aligned on where we're ending? So getting aligned on what we've done well in the past, getting aligned on what's working and what's not working, as well as some of the opportunities that we have. You want to set that baseline of common understanding for your team so everybody can move forward from the conversation from there. The PESTLE analysis is critical now in 2021 and beyond because the future is changing so rapidly. We do a 3-year vision, 3-year plan when we do strategic plans because the world changes so quickly that if we did a 5-year plan, that it would be out of date right away, basically. Many of us, including myself, I can't even plan for 6 months from now. I have no idea what's going to happen 6 months from now. So being able to get aligned on where we think the future is going and setting an adaptive future state is critical. In session 2, we look at a 3-year visioning exercise. If we're 100% successful, how will we know if we get there? And it's not about necessarily getting agreement for everything, but alignment for everything. And that's a breakthrough session for teams because they can say, wow, I'm 100% clear. We're all going in the same direction. And it creates this ease, this lightness. They say, okay, finally, like I'm clear that we're on the same page versus wondering if we're on the same page or not. This next conversation around who we are, what do we do, who do we do it for is super valuable for mission-based organizations. Mission-based organizations serve a core customer very specifically. And if you and your leadership team don't agree on who that core customer is, it's going to cause frustration and changes in terms of where you're allocating your resources. I'm not going to go too far into the rest of this, but I do want to highlight this part around prioritization. Okay. Many organizations have 5, 6, 7, 8 priorities, which means that you're spreading resources like peanut butter. Your employees who aren't part of the strategy process just see all of these different priorities they need to focus on. It creates confusion, it creates uncertainty, and it creates frustration. So what we suggest as a team, I'm going to show you it right here, is take these multiple priorities, focus on a couple things, and do them really well. If you're not experiencing progress in your strategic plan, it's possibly because you have too many things going on. So minimize switching costs, increase output, increase productivity, and make big progress in initiatives where you need them to. You'll get better progress towards your vision. And many of the organizations that we work with say, we accomplished our vision much faster than we thought, just because it was clear, it was articulated, and it wasn't a vision statement. It was actually like a fixed point vision of what success looks like. The last piece I want to share here, actually 2 more pieces before I finish up. So this is one of our recap documents. So as part of our program, you get a written recap in Word as well as PowerPoint. So we walk you through this strategic plan workbook. And it's really asking and answering those key questions. Where are we now? Where are we going? What's going to get in the way? What do we need to do to get there? And how are we going to move that forward? We'll also include the results to our survey, which is part of our pre-work. I'm going to stop my screen share for a sec. What's included in our package, our 12,500 alignment package, is we do pre-work, which includes survey with meeting participants, the survey I just shared, as well as interviews. It helps us as facilitators better understand your organization, understand some of the intricacies and some of the things that might pop up in the session. The survey is great because it helps your team look at some of the themes prior to the session. So not only are they answering the questions there, they're getting to see the responses of their colleagues and their peers. And then in the session, they get to unpack it, get aligned. So it cuts down on the meeting time, but it also helps people that are quiet or might not necessarily shout out. You get to get their insights, which are critical to the success of your plan. So that's the pre-work, interviews, surveys. We do the session either 2 days in person or 3 days in person or 5 sessions online. We work your team through the vision, mission, strategic priorities, goals, and actions, as well as communication plan. And then after the fact, you get a written recap in Word and PowerPoint so that you can document your plan and move that forward. One of the key considerations I want you to think about is that the 2-day alignment is just the first step. You'll get aligned on where you're going, you'll get buy-in from your team, and you'll move from implied to explicit. The next thing I want you to consider is how are you going to actually implement your plan? Because if you think it's a 3-year plan and you spent 5 weeks building the plan, well, what about the other 31 weeks of implementing it? So consider that you're going to need a structure, a process, a framework for implementing your plan, for keeping your team accountable, and making sure that the great progress that you made in that strategy session isn't lost in a couple months because you got busy. And I guarantee you will get busy. The tyranny of the urgent will come in, and you being able to stay on top of your strategic plan is critical. So having a partner like us who can keep you accountable, who can coach your leaders on top of or how to track and monitor and update your plan, and to really keep it top of mind as you communicate it as an organization. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer anything that might help you as you think of planning these sessions, as you plan your own organizational strategic planning. One One of the things that as you look at who do you want to participate in this plan, we typically do strategic planning top down, which means starting with your board of directors, if you have one, because they're the ones who are supposed to be implementing your strategy. And then potentially your senior leadership, your CEOs and your senior managers, and then potentially including your middle managers. I wouldn't involve too many frontline employees in the strategy creation because they are not responsible for the direction of the business. Ideal person count is typically between 7 to 12 people-ish. If you start getting to 20 people for a strategy session, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Unless your organization is very large, if you got, several 100 or 1,000 people in your organization, a 20-person strategy session might be required, in which case the process would go much longer, both because there's a lot more things to work through. There's probably a lot more pre-work that you need to do, more data analysis, etc. But if you're an SME, around 50 to 200 people, the 2 days should be just enough to be able to work through all of that and to keep your team focused. And we've got a lot of testimonials. I didn't have them ready for today, but we have them, and we've worked with lots of organizations around the world, so we know how to do this really well. What else is another thing I want to share with you about that? There is a structure. There is a process. And a lot of people, especially now during COVID and especially not being able to do this, say, can we do it in one day? You can do something in one day. But if you try to fast track the process of creating a strategic plan, you're just going to shortchange yourself in the future. There's a reason why we include each individual conversation, and there's a reason that we get alignment throughout. So don't try to do a 2-day process in one day. You're going to miss something. You're not going to have full engagement. You're not going to have buy-in, and it's going to be more challenging in the long run. So invest the time on the front end, whether you work with us or not, and have a better strategy in the long term. You don't need to do it all at once, but I highly encourage you to do each and every step: current state, future state, risks, culture values, priorities, and action items. Another thing that we found out of doing this in one of our exercises we do around culture is we have seen people, the difference between accomplishing their vision of the future and not accomplishing their vision of the future actually lives in the values. And we can say, if everybody is living your values that we've determined through this session, do you see yourself accomplishing your vision? And they say yes. We say, if nobody lives the values, do you see yourself accomplishing your vision? And they say no. And why I want to highlight that and why it's important is that the actual strategies and the plans are important, but they're not as important as the guiding behaviors within your organization. So do not skip over culture as part of your strategy, because it's been said, strategy eats culture for breakfast, and it's so true. So ignore culture at your peril. But I guarantee that if you have the right culture and you have the right structure for it and you ask the right questions, you'll be able to accomplish your vision much faster. So strategy itself is not just about the plan. It's the environment around the plan. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next overview after this one. So keep in mind, you have to have the right vision. You have to be going in the same place. You have to have the right buy-in, but you need to make sure that you have the right environment, which includes the right capacities to be able to move your team forward. So do you develop OKRs and KPIs in the action implementation step? Yes, absolutely. So we use the partially balanced scorecard framework, but when we look at our top 3 strategic priorities, each priority has objectives, which we call objectives as qualitative, and we set goals as quantitative, so measurable. When setting measurable goals, moving from X to Y by date. So we'll say, okay, we want to improve our marketing. Well, what are our marketing KPIs and targets? Keeping in mind that just because it's the goal that we created in the strategy session, it may not be the goal forever because people want to refine it, but that's included in our process as well, where we include 2 coaching calls to support refining the plan after the fact. But setting objectives, so we know qualitatively what does this mean, so everybody's on the same page, and quantitatively, what are the things that we're trying to actually aim at? If success was a place in terms of our strategic priorities, how would we know? And using it as a draft, because it really is designed to be agile, to be able to be focused on in a short amount of time, accomplished, and then move on to something else. In some cases, your strategic priorities will maintain for 3 years or longer because they're the things you need to work on. But we ask in the question, if we were trying to get leverage towards accomplishing our vision, what are the top 3 most impactful things we need to focus on? The organizations that don't succeed focus on too many things or don't have the rigor to focus. So they don't know where they're going. Everybody's moving in different directions and they're focused on too many things. And that's the essence of the multiple destination trap. We have a scorecard called the One Destination Scorecard. You can do that with your team. I think it's SMEstrategy.net/one-destination-scorecard-conversation. Jason might drop the link in the chat there. But to be able to do that assessment with your team to say, hey, are we stuck in the multiple destination trap or are we all moving towards one destination? And if you think you're moving towards all the same place, I encourage you to get it explicitly clear. If we're 100% successful, how will we know? And if you're not moving to the same place, you're moving in different places, you're wasting time, money, energy, and it's probably causing you $250,000. Most of our clients, it costs $250,000 to $1 million a year in lost productivity. So 12,500, get your team aligned over 16 hours or go in the wrong direction for the next 3 years. Choice is up to you. So happy to have a conversation more, answer any questions that you have, walk you through what it could look like for your organization. We've also done it with cascading, so doing a couple of days with the board, a couple of days with the team. And then in part of our implementation program, we talk about how to cascade that down to middle managers and employees. Qualitative is the quality, as in I'm going to make my marketing better. I'm going to have better retention. I'm going to lose weight. Quantitative is measurable. I'm going to improve my net promoter score from 6 to 8. I'm going to improve the amount of conversions from 5 to 7 per day. I'm going to decrease waste from 10% to 5%. So decreased waste is the qualitative, and then the measure from 10 to 5 is the quantitative. Having both is helpful because that way you know what you're aiming at, but also conceptually what it looks like. People who aren't sort of experts in strategy, and how do I say this a different way? Most people who've never done strategic planning are going to think about it in layman's terms. We try to make strategy, we do make strategy easy to understand. Everybody can understand where we are, where we're going, what's going to get in the way, and what do we need to do to get there. So even if you've never done a strategic planning session before, even if you have no strategic planning program in place for your organization, this is a great fit for you because it's designed for SMEs that are going from no strategy to some strategy. Okay. And if you ask yourself, well, we've been successful without a strategic plan before. It's like, yeah, well, I've made it to my destination without a map or directions before. It just took me longer. So getting your team on the same page is important because then everybody knows where you're going and you're going to get there a lot faster. So think about the alternative in terms of cost of headcount, in terms of losing employees. I could go on for hours about this. I won't. But consider the ROI of not having a strategic plan. What's it costing you and your leadership team to not be on the same page? I can almost guarantee it's going to be a lot more than our fee. So consider that and say, hey, should we do strategic planning? Probably, but maybe. So reach out to us. Happy to have a conversation. See if we're a good fit. There's a lot of great strategic planners out there and a lot of great facilitators. We have our model. They have theirs. I think everybody's good. So if it's the alternative between no plan and a plan, pick one. And then if you think we're a great fit to facilitate and lead your team, great for that as well. Jason, if you can drop the services page as well so people can get more information about that. There's also an FAQ. One last thing is we deal with a lot of leadership team members that are loud and opinionated. We're really good at that because everybody is opinionated and everybody is the smartest. So what we're good at doing is being able to balance equity of voice, make sure everybody participates, but also challenge people in a way that's productive. So we don't need a lot of resistance because we're neutral. It's just about asking the questions and helping you and your team get to that clear outcome. So I hope that helps. Jason dropped the next session in the box around implementation planning. If you have, can you touch on effective cascading processes? Basically go top down, then bottom up. That's my short answer for that. Hopefully that helps. And I hope you're enjoying the session so far. So be sure to reach out to us, smestrategy.net/contact. In the offers tab, there is a way to reach out to us. And again, it's just a conversation. If we're a great fit to help, please, we'd be happy to. And then we have fixed fee. And the fixed fee is so you don't have to worry about if the budget is going to go change. It's a fixed fee unless we agree upon it. Otherwise, that it's going to take longer or you want to do it in person. And we have traveled to as far as Fiji from the west coast of Canada. So we're still working in the United States. I can work in Europe. I speak fluent French. Bonjour, hello. And I hope that answers everything for you. So we'll see you in the next session. Thanks, everyone. Anthony Taylor, managing partner at SME Strategy. Hope it helped. And we'll see you in the next session about our implementation plans. Thanks, everyone.